When I started working on this song, it was just an experiment. And I really didn't think that it would turn out to be a song, you know?
And it looks like rain.
The song was supposed to be an R&B song in the beginning, so it was a bit slower, and it all started with this chord progression. I was like, oh, has an R&B vibe to it. That was the initial thought. That was the initial idea. Then I threw on top these snaps. I then decided to spice it up with some percussion. And at this point, an idea popped in my head. I was like, what if I try to make this an 80s song? So in my head, I kept hearing like a Michael Jackson type of style. And I have never really experimented with this genre, so I didn't know how to make it. So I just started messing around. So at that point, I decided to focus on the chorus of the song. That was actually the first part that was built. And based on that, I built the rest, essentially. And so I decided to focus on the kick. I also came up with this snare. And when you put them together, then I added some hats on top to give it more flavor. And I decided to bring back the same percussion that I had from the beginning. At this point, the drums were pretty much there. That was kind of it. I was like, I'm pretty happy with that. So now it's time to, you know, come up with the instruments. We already had the pad, but it was missing some of that power, you know? So I decided to use a piano on top. And a song like this one is nothing without a nice bass line, so I decided to focus on that. So I decided to use a realistic sounding bass. I came up with this bass line. And when you throw that bass on top, it just complements everything. And at this point, I was sold on the song. So I decided to think about some instruments that you typically hear in songs like this one. I thought about an electric guitar, for example, a nice funky electric guitar. I browsed through my samples and I found this guitar. The only problem is that it was not in the right key, so I had to pitch it down. And at that point, it sounded something like this. And when you throw it on top of everything, it just adds so much more to it. And after that, you know, you also hear strings. So I decided to go with this, guys. A very, I would say, kind of slow, basic, but you know, it just adds a little bit of flavor to it. And I also added this roll that goes right before everything starts. And when you put all of that together, you get this. The verses are just some variation of what I had already built. But then when it came to the last chorus, I wanted to make it special. I wanted to make it different. A couple things happen. First, the strings change. Here they are more prominent with a bit more energy. So I came up with this. And I also decided to bring in this flute, which I only had used in the verses in the past. If you add the flute and you add those strings, you get something like this. Also, I really wanted to put in some trumpets on top. So I came up with this, guys. Also, another change that I made here, I made a variation of the bass, so the bass is much more energetic. When you add that, it just brings even more energy than it already had. And to top it off, I just added even more trumpets. If I combine the new trumpets with the older ones, it sounds like this. And that to me is just the most powerful and the most energetic part of the entire song. And I could have ended the song right here. This could have been the ending and I think it would have been fine. But to me, after all this energy and just dropping to silence, you know, the ending, it just didn't sit right with me. So I once again started experimenting with the strings. I came up with this variation on the strings, which I thought it was just so beautiful and so nice. And while I was listening to that, I heard in the back some, you know, bongos and congas in the background. I don't know why. So I decided to go through my salsa loops, which is not normal, it's not common, certainly doesn't fit right here. The tempo is not the same. There are a lot of reasons why it wouldn't work. And I found this guy, which was quite fast, to be honest. Once I slowed it down, it sounded more like this. Which has a bit of a cha-cha-cha vibe to it, feel to it, I don't know. And then I threw that in the back and I just felt like it was right. And this just felt like it just wanted to keep going, so I just kind of kept going. I added a piano on top of that. And then I also felt like it needed a bass in the back, so then I introduced the bass. And at this point, I did feel like it could finally get to the ending. And I know that it's a weird way of ending the song on a different genre, different vibe, different feeling, different everything essentially. But I think that it gives it a nice, unexpected, yet pleasing twist. And that is basically it. Then you just throw some vocals on top of that, and there you have it. Oceans Dancing.
And it looks like rain, but